Would you like to find out a simple test that can be given to an infant that could determine whether they may or may not be autistic? So, this is the latest headline coming as of Valentine's Day, and it came out from Rutgers. And there's a simple brain wave data and hearing test that may help diagnose autism earlier than has been able to be done before. So there's an there's a hearing test that all parents have done to their children to see where they are as far as their hearing, to make sure that they're able to hear correctly so they can learn language and learn on time. Because a lot of children that if they're deaf, obviously the child is not going to be able to let them know until later on in life. So this hearing test is something simple. So also what they found is that if they can dive more into the data, they can of the same test that's already being done, that they can determine whether there's a problem with the child and understanding language and having a little bit slower ability to understand language and pick up language. So I'll just dive into this. So this comes from Neuroscience News, and it was published on Valentine's Day. So it says researchers say that brainwave data collected during routine hearing tests in newborns could help doctors to spot the signs of neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism, earlier. So brainwave. So researchers found that newborns who later received an autism diagnosis had pronounced delays in their brainstem responding to sounds. On average, these newborns had a 1.76 millisecond lag in a system that operates at a microsecond timescale compared to newborns who developed neurotypically. So there's a tiny, a millisecond is 1 millionth of a second, and this is less than 2 1 millionths of a second lag, and that's all it takes for there to be a developmental disorder in an infant, because an infant is tiny and it is growing exponentially for its first 7 years, and then it starts slowing down. But because of this tiny little lag that can be caught way earlier, then the doctors can start working on helping the child with a diagnosis and finding out what they can do a lot earlier. Because the earlier you catch something, the faster you can fix it, and the faster you can come up with a game plan to develop a way to do a workaround. So these newborns may have difficulty integrating sound with other sensory streams like vision, movement, and pain because of limited access to sound frequency. Furthermore, they may have difficulty communicating socially and learning languages. So the main ways that children are diagnosed with autism is making friends, being able to socialize, and then what happens is that they go into these repetitive behaviors because they're stimulating themselves for self-soothing. So, in the main key point is that they are developmentally challenged due to this possible hearing loss, that there's a lag of only 1.76 milliseconds. So they're So the researchers published this and talked about proposing, suggesting a possible approach for developing a universal screening tool for neurodevelopmental disorders with new avenues for targeted personalized treatments. With very little effort and cost, we could build a universal screening test to eliminate disparities in infant neurodevelopment and establish normative, which means normal, scales of such dynamic processes, says the author of this study, Professor Torres, Elizabeth Torres, who is also the director of the New Jersey Autism Center of Excellence. So this will give us the ability to measure individual departures from these neurotypical ranges as early as possible when the nervous system is rapidly changing and adapting to its environment and the brain-body circuitry is still forming. Because during the first couple years, 2 to 3 years, is when everything's happening. So if there's a lag, that's going to be a big thing. And so when they can catch it earlier, and if they can come up with a diagnosis and diagnostic tools to be able to figure this out, they'll be able to help a lot of children. And even though they will be neuro they'll be neurodivergent. They'll be different from being neurotypical, but the bottom line is they will catch it earlier, and they'll be able to come up with ways in which may not have even been invented yet on how to make these children develop normally. In which all they have to do is put in some interventions. They don't have to give them drugs. They don't have to try and do gene splicing. They don't have to do, ABA therapy. They don't have to grow up and have to be sent in the small bus to a special school and get stigmatized for all these problems, because this was caught a couple months earlier, and they figured out this 1.76 millisecond lag, and so it's very important. So I think this is a very, very important study and development. And so it says, as a result of the extreme plasticity, which means the ability for you to have new neural connections of an infant's brain, the earlier the therapeutic intervention, the more effective the treatment will be. As a result, the results may explain differences in language acquisition, sensory processing, and motor control. Motor control is a lot of people on the lower end of the spectrum have a lot of problems with being uncoordinated and not being good at sports. And luckily, that wasn't me. But I'm a bit of a different case. So, but yeah, if you have problems with language, I did when I was a child. If you have problems with hearing and understanding, and there's a lag, especially when somebody says something unexpected, you may not even understand what they're saying, and they may have to say it twice in order for you to even catch what they're saying. And this can, in social situations with many people talking, a lot of the problems with people with autism is that they're hearing too many, too much input from too many different sounds, too many different voices saying too many different things. And a lot of people with autism cannot focus on one specific person, especially when they're getting stressed. And so these things could help with interventions that are caught super early in infancy. So yeah, and sensory processing, language acquisition. So there's some people that have good language acquisition because they can read well. So if they slow it down, then they can pick it up. A lot of the problems with autism is sensory perception. It's everything coming in, and then all of a sudden the person gets overwhelmed, and then all of a sudden they do stemming. They do the you know, the self-soothing by doing stimming, which the stimming can be something that's not socially acceptable in the mainstream, and so that person may be thought of as weird, and then they're a social outcast. So then all these other things happen to the person that's autistic. So I will put a link to this article, and so you can check it out and find out more about it. And so have a great day.